So good afternoon, everyone. This is, I always prefer to hold the microphone like this. This is Steve Leveille for your Nova Scotia Sunny News. It is a great pleasure on this November the 29th, correct? 2016. We are marking something brand new, and I will say by starting like this. I'm thinking that you will understand what I'm saying. There's been for quite a century a day called Memorial Day, lest we forget.
Remembrance Day.
Remembrance Day. So would you ever imagine that a media would decide to change that and have a series for 12 months? You heard right. So until November of next year, this is a brand new series on veterans. So on a weekly basis, we will be having veterans. And to start, I have the honor and the privilege to have Officer
Donald Potter. From the Royal Canadian Navy, and I served in the Royal Canadian Navy. I also served in the Army as well. Mm-hmm. And my purpose in this interview is to introduce myself, but to introduce you to not only the veterans of years gone by, wars gone by, which we can classify as our old veterans, but also our new veterans, because it is important to realize that those veterans that have passed on have given their lives for freedom. They have given their lives for us to have the right, not just the privilege, but the right to have our freedom. They died for this. They made the ultimate sacrifice. But the ultimate sacrifice, Steve, goes far beyond that. Because those that have died want to leave a message. Now, what would you think that the message would be from those who passed away? The message would be this. Instead of praying and sending messages to us of how good we were and everything else, they are in the ultimate place. They made the ultimate sacrifice. And if they were to speak to the public from their hearts and their souls, the message they would give is, yes, we paid the ultimate price. But what can you do for us now we're gone? You could take care of those who witness us being blown apart. You could pay respects to those that we left behind. Those people that are suffering from the limbs that they might have lost. Those people that remember that they have post-traumatic stress disorder because they suffered not only having to go to war, but to see their colleagues, men and women who have lost their lives, and they witnessed it. So they're not only suffering the pain every moment that year event comes around, that date, whatever date it was, that they saw their partners blown up and they suffered their dismemberment or their psychological disorder. They have to live it twice. The shameful thing is, we have a man that went to Afghanistan, a new veteran. He went and he served in Afghanistan several times. And what happened? He lost his partner. He had his legs blown off right up so that they can't even have stumps. You know what? The government, the Canadian government, in the most shameful, disrespectful mannerism that you could imagine, requests and demands that this man prove every year that he has no legs.
So if I may interject for a moment, My understanding is when it comes to doing a status or a request, there could be possibilities of readjustments, modifications within the request. There's probably a lot of requests that are either done through, I'm going to say, computerized process, so that for certain things it has to go like that. So what I would suggest is this: what about if we were to talk, and having the chance to talk with the minister responsible for the veterans into reviewing this process? Because I'm sure that there are probably people who have not necessarily overview it. Prime Minister Trudeau is definitely a person that has a different approach to things. So I know that for Sean Fraser and him had a good discussion a few months ago when we were filming in New Glasgow, and Prime Minister Trudeau said, we will definitely sit down with the minister, review exactly what's going on with Canada Post. So I'm sure that it would definitely be possible to relay the information to either through Andy Fillmore or Mr. Fraser.
Well,
so yes, continue. Into wanting to, of course, making this more sense, because I definitely understand, by respect towards you, with your dignity, and along with your brothers that are veterans and that have to fill those documents. And I just recall something that he told me about the other day. Whenever you have to fill a document where you have to prove that this happened, it brings you back to the suffering of the wounds and of what happened, and it's not necessarily very neither interesting, but probably very, very difficult on psychological states.
Psychological, emotional, heartfelt pain. And as I was mentioning before, the ombudsman knows about this case. The ombudsman, Mr. Stogan, Colonel Stogan, was very adamant on how he was supporting the veterans. There's a lot of support for the veterans, but the trouble is the veterans are put at the side. It doesn't matter whether you go into the United States or whether you go to Canada. You're looking at a lack of recognition for the veteran himself and for the sacrifices they paid, especially in post-traumatic stress disorder. And what happens, there's two elements that it's really, really alarming. And one of the alarming is that you have a disability that is visible. Your leg or limb or thing is dismembership or something else like that. You're blind, your hearing is gone, something. But then there's the post-traumatic stress disorder, the psychological...
the non-visible direct part.
That you cannot see, and it's less recognized. And when you find out that you have it, you have to learn to deal with it. But in my case, I have post-traumatic stress disorder, somatization disorder, anxiety, depression, major depression, hearing disability, memory deficiency, and others. But you can't see them.
No.
And because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not there.
No.
And the element that I want to focus on today is that it affects the old veterans. It affects the new veterans.
Right.
And what I'm asking today is for credibility.
Credibility.
Accountability. The dignity of the veteran. And the veteran is anyone that goes into the forces and serves in any manners. It doesn't matter whether you're at home or abroad. As a veteran, you need to be respected and honored for the service that you do for your country and for its freedom.
Yes.
And for the people all over the world.
Right.
So the thing is, what I feel is if we're going to do a series on this subject, then we must come to the basic elements of integrity, dignity, respect for the man and the woman wearing a uniform, and those that are in the forces that are not in uniform but in a civilian entity to have the respect of service.
Yes.
And if you go into the service and you're injured in the line of duty, that you are entitled to your full medical treatment, but you are also entitled, in the case of dismembership, post-traumatic stress disorder, whatever it is that becomes a permanent disability, that you are dignified with the right to medical services, medical treatment, and a medical pension. One point that is very, very misunderstood, kept in a low profile, people don't know about it, is that, and let's bring it to light.
Yes.
The element is that if you're in uniform and you're on duty, then you are on duty. You're entitled to be protected under the medical and also under your pension. But that's not the case.
No.
The case is that, one, if you're on duty and you're on a military base, you are covered for both medical and pension. But if you're on duty and you leave the base for an hour for lunch, or you are going back and forth from home, or let's say, for example, in my case, 1969, I was with my twin brother. Now, we're the only twins in the world that saved, unless you could bring up another one, that were on the same NATO exercise, regular force, here in Halifax, and we were going out to ship. And what happened is, we were told by our officer of the day that we are gaining ammunition, we are bringing ammunition aboard, we are refueling, so the ship's company, all except those that are necessary to be on board, are on leave for a few hours.
Okay.
You are to remain in uniform and report back, sign out, and sign back in for duty. We're leaving, let's say, 6 o'clock the next morning, so you have to be there.
Right.
So we go out. My twin brother and I go to the bar everyone's going to. We're minors at the time, but the guy lets us in as long as we're only watching the show, but we're not drinking. And I don't drink. My brother doesn't drink. We never even tried a joint in our life. We're straight arrows that you can be. It was just that we didn't like that sort of thing, and we were very religious and everything. So anyway, what happened is we went down there. We were walking back. We stayed with the band that played "A Little Love in Your Heart." Put a little love in your heart. I can't remember the name, but anyway, of the band. But we walked them to the hotel after, and then we came back to ship.
Right.
Some people took a taxi. We couldn't get a taxi. It was a very cold January 18th, 1969.
Okay.
And we were walking back to ship, and we went over to Barrington Street Road.
Right.
And we decided, we were wearing the white silk scarves my mother gave us, each one. He had P, I had D. Donald Potter, Douglas Potter. So we were wearing our scarves. Our uniforms, clear as day. Those silk scarves were long and stood out like crazy. So anyway, we're walking back, and we decided to face the traffic so they could see us and we could see them, because we're going over the overpass. It was under construction. It was full of rocks. It went down on a slope like this. Well, this drunken sailor, Donald Ross Hutton is his name, came from behind. He was driving his wife, Mary Hutton's, it was her car. He was driving the car. He was impaired driving. He hit us. He struck us down. We went over the overpass on the January 18, 1969.
Okay.
We were laying down on the rocks. He stopped the car. He got out and looked at us laying down below on the rocks. And then what happened? You think he went down there to help us? No. What he did, he went back to the gate. He signed in. He went to ship and he escaped to sea using the Royal Canadian Navy as an escape route. His wife took the car back to the house. I guess they cleaned it off and everything else. Left it at the house. She did not report the accident either.
Okay.
But you might then know, how did I survive? The greatest part of this story, because I don't want everything to be negative, and this guy that hit us, I'd probably forgive him anyways. But the thing is, I can't forget, but the good Lord gave me the power to forgive. So the thing is, he left us for dead. They left us for dead, freezing there. If it wasn't for another taxi coming behind him, and the two sailors that were in the taxi that were going back to base in uniform, they witnessed him hitting us. They witnessed him get out of the car to go look at us down below. Okay. They witnessed him going back to the car and escaping to the thing. But they took the license number. And the taxi driver phoned the Halifax police.
Right.
The Halifax police, I'm sure they told they called, we went into the Victoria General Hospital. I have the documents here.
Right.
And then Victoria General Hospital got in touch with the Navy base. We were in uniform.
Right. Okay.
And within 24 hours, we were on a military base.
Okay.
The thing is, what is so disturbing is that this person that hit us didn't even consider that we were in the freezing cold.
Right.
January 18th, in Halifax, on the harbor, down by the water, it's freezing. We were lucky. The two sailors that went down into those rocks and brought us back up to the top.
Right.
Should be given medals for above and beyond the call of duty.
Well, that's for sure. I think there's a question I'd like to ask is, you're saying that he was definitely drunk?
Oh yeah.
She was probably drunk as well, would she?
She
probably
was a passenger.
Drunk.
But
No. But I'm not. It's not a judgment call here, but I'm just thinking if both of them reacted like that, there's definitely, because yes, they definitely have escaped, but there must have been that was definitely strange and abnormal from both of that to have done that. And you're saying the taxi driver took the information, took the driver's license, and what happened from there? Has there any reports that was reported to the military police?
I'll get you to that right away. What happened was, I was unconscious, my brother was unconscious from the time that we hit the rocks. So the only thing I could reflect is what the two people came into the hospital and saw me, and what they told me. But I was kept under sedation, and I couldn't reflect their names. I remember what they said. And I could remember everything so clearly. But, I can't even remember the things I did with my children anymore. I can't remember the music. I used to be a scuba diver. I used to fly. I used to be in charge of the military band, and I can't read a note of music or remember anything. So the initial part of the opening of what we said is our first interview
Right.
is respecting the veterans.
Mm-hmm.
When we got into Stadacona Hospital,
Right.
we were not allowed to know. I said, let me know. Is my brother alive or not? My brother is downstairs on the third floor. I'm on the upper floor, and we're not allowed communicating.
Okay.
I said, I want to speak to my brother. No. I want to see my brother. No. I said, I want to speak to my mother and my father, my family, even the priest, and I want to see the military police. You have no right to communicate with anyone, and no one has a right to communicate with you.
Who said that to you?
The medical officer that was taking care of the nurse.
Any reasons
Wouldn't let us.
why?
What's that?
Any reasons why?
She said, you're a military number, and you are not allowed to talk to anybody. Period.
And
I
do
said,
you remember
at
any
least.
information about that?
I said, I want to know if my brother's alive. No. Now, the horrifying part about that is, listen, you have an next of kin. You have a right to speak to a priest. You have a right to speak to your family, but we were not allowed to communicate. And now...
You were in Canada or in a different country?
No, we were here in Stadacona Hospital, here in Halifax, and we were not allowed to communicate. Now, I have all the documents here.
Okay.
Even our insurance, were not allowed to communicate with us.
Okay.
They couldn't even find us. Our priest, who asked for us, were not allowed to know where we were. He said, everything, you're on a NATO exercise, everything's confidential.
Okay.
So I'll make this brief because we have a limited time.
Yes.
But what happened is, made it worse, is not being able to communicate. I ended up having to tell the nurse, I'm going to go see my brother. You're not going to tell me. I'm going to go and see him. I had my head all bandaged, 21 stitches in the head. I had my ear bleeding. I had my left arm up like this in traction, my left leg up in traction, fractured coccyx, multiple abrasions and lacerations.
Okay.
And post-concussion syndrome.
Okay.
And I wasn't allowed to see my brother, so I told her, I'm going to go and see him.
Well, I am definitely very sorry to hear this. So I would like to say this is definitely the very first part of this series. We will be hearing more within the next series. And we will definitely not only go through this, but most certainly we will get things resolved and solutions come apart.
Okay, thank you very much. And
You're
I'm
absolutely
anxious
welcome.
to go on
Yes.
I'm anxious to go on with the rest of this narration to what took place right after.
Yes.